Hi, do you like fast cars and want to go faster? Well, I have a solution to you, and it's called forced induction. So you're probably wondering how forced induction works. Well, before I explain that to you, I'll explain to you how an engine works really briefly. So there's four main cycles to the engine. There is the intake cycle, and in this cycle, air and fuel are combined together into the cylinder. Well, the cylinder comes up. Well, the piston, sorry, comes up, and now then there's the compression cycle. So now in this stage, both valves closed, both valves are closed, and the piston will come up as much as possible and compress the air and the fuel mixture. Now there is the power cycle. So in this stage, there's a little spark between the two valves, and this ignites that mixture and it creates an explosion. And now that sends the piston flying down, and the exhaust cycle happens, where that valve, the exhaust valve, comes up, and this one stay closed, and the exhaust valves are coming out, or the exhaust fumes are coming out, and the piston is flying down. So, how forced induction works is it takes advantage of the intake cycle, where air is coming in and provides more air to mix with more fuel to create more power. So, there's two main ways to do this. There's turbocharging and supercharging. Well, let's talk about turbocharging. So what turbocharging does is turbocharging takes that hot exhaust gas that's moving through the manifold, and instead of just shooting it out of the car, it spins a wheel right over here. This is part of the turbocharger, and that wheel is attached to another wheel, which is called the compression wheel. This wheel spins and spools up air from the outside and takes that in, and it compresses that. Now this wheel now once the air has come in, it goes out really quickly. It's a bit hot, it's been compressed, but it's really dense air. So now that is now cooled down by an intercooler. Then the air goes through the intercooler, it's cooled down, now it's chilled and compressed air, and it's ready to go back into the engine. Yeah. So that's how that works. It creates a lot of power, but it also has a weird rev range where it'll have the power more high out in the revs, creating a bit of a lag and a jolt in power. Now the other way to do this is supercharging. So how this works, instead of using exhaust fumes, it'll use the actual belt of the engine. So I don't know if you've ever seen in movies where there's, those big looking blowers sticking out of the engine of a car. They look like this kind of. You see this part? That's part of the supercharger. That's the blower actually of it. So how that works is it sticks on top of the engine block and it has two lobes. And these lobes spin, and they spin really close to each other and really tightly into each other, and they compress the air that comes in evenly at all rev ranges due to the fact that it's attached to the engine belt. And there's a little pulley right over here where the belt will go on. So the air comes in, it's compressed, it is then sent to an intercooler, which is usually placed on top or below it, and then the engine block is right there, and how it creates power. This delivers power more evenly and distributes it better through the rev range as it works with the engine belt. So it's more linear power, but less of it versus the turbochargers, more power all the time. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed.